like to make this distinction between, okay, the self-2, which is like if you think of self-1, just to have shared terminology as the acting, thinking, feeling self, and self-2, the one that's reflecting over that self, right? But in time.
Right.
Like, like reading, like you were describing, like your life, and trying to act on, which is a kind of mode of self-management or self-control, trying to improve what self-one is doing,
Right. Right.
And this other intelligence that was referring to as somatic intelligence is an intelligence that is self-sensing and self-organizing, and of course self-renewing, right? And it's living in the now, in the emerging. It's how life is sensing itself as it's emerging, and in always on the edge of living into the unknown and embodying it more fully, right? And that process is has those characteristics of intelligence that is not doesn't require a secondary act of will. It's not trying to fix, the self, but it is able to reorganize and self-correct and shape-shift, and like just by really loving what it loves and savoring what's emerging now with the sense of I loved the other day listening to you speak about the hand and the sense of giving.
Right.
And for me, the practice is so much about sort of receiving the gift of the infinite that's always present by savoring, drinking in what's here now. And in the drinking in, there's this kissing back to all of that is just natural, that is actually enhancing the joy of just tasting the moment, kind of leaning into what you love. And so that process by which we participate in a way that is emerging out of that lovingness, and in a way that is always sort of enhancing or leaning us into the joy of receiving the gift of being embodying the infinite so intimately, in terms of the felt sense of experience in this moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And that this is in synchronicity with the higher, now it's very modern to call it evolutionary or creative impulse of the universe.
Yeah.
Because this intelligence is unfolding through us.
Yes.
Like the tree that's growing a leaf and then it becomes a small branch, and then so the universe expresses itself through us, and this is, once we can live out of this moving energy that where evolution carries the intelligence forward in higher complexities, then we are living actually in alignment with life. And that's a very different life than when we live in the separate experience of life.
Yes.
Because it creates much less side effects.
And so effortless, just like the plant that is just yearning for the light, its growth isn't like, it's not trying to grow, right? It's just loving what it loves into, being in its true nature, an expression of what's emerging.
Right. And it needs this listening, because there's a certain stage in the development that we need to learn to listen to this more than to the conditioned self. And that most of the people's attention is fixed on the conditioned self, so it needs a spiritual practice or some kind of, however we call it, practice to listen more to this bigger existence. Like the fluid of the tree that supports the leaf to grow.
Yeah.
So to listen to this fluid. But by listening to this fluid, we also see that we are never separate from the
Yes.
rest. You know, that the ego experience that is separate is actually transcended into a knowing that it's not separate, not just a
Yes.
logical idea,
Yes.
you know, the rational understanding of we are not separate, but it becomes a living
felt sense
fact.
of,
Yeah.
yes. Yes. Yeah.
And then it supports this movement very much that we see that when the hands open, this fluid is actually our abundance.
Yes.
So there's no shortage of this creative impulse.
Yes. I loved your referring to us as growing this, I think you describe it as a culture of we.
Right.
Yeah.
A we without them.
Yes.
Yeah.
We without them.